2026 at 8:30 a.m. in the East Mezzanine of City Hall, 72 West College Avenue, San Angelo, Texas, for the purpose of considering the posted agenda items. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order, 8:31 a.m. And the first item is we'll have a prayer from Pastor Glenn Lures of St. Luke Methodist Church. Good morning.
Good morning, friends. Let us please come to a posture where we meditate before the Lord. Precious Creator God, thank you for all those who call San Angelo home, those who work, live, study, serve our country, attend church, and create community. We pray for wisdom for our leaders. We pray for creativity in those things of new ambitions. We pray for courage for those who invest, serve, work, and build in our community that we call home. Whether you have lived here for 1 week or for the last 51 years, we ask to create a meaningful community of volunteerism that works for all of our families and for all of your creation. Let us always remember environmental justice. Build this city on the rock of your solid love, that a solid foundation cannot be broken. Remember to serve those that are in need, that economic development serves those who are prosperous and our entire community, wealthy or poor, those who have a strong voice and those with no microphone, to continue the good work that you have already laid before us, that you have already put in our paths to serve an entire community, not out of just one specific need, but out of the need to love, to care, to give, to donate, and to serve constantly. God, it is in your precious name, and all of God's people proclaim, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Lurs. Appreciate you being here this morning. All right, with that, we'll move into item 3, public comment. Issues or items that are not on the agenda may be raised by the public at this time. Citizens should speak from the podium, begin by stating their name, and limit their remarks to less than 3 minutes. Board members may request that a discussed item be placed on a future agenda. The board takes public comment on all regular agenda items during the discussion of those items. Do we have any?
First one we have is Desiree Johnson.
Okay. Good morning, Desiree.
I'm going to share the stage with Samuel. We are very excited to announce that the business plan competition application window closed August 5th. And do you want to tell them how many? Do you remember?
39 total entries.
All right.
Yes. So we're very excited. That was 2 more than last year. So we'll shoot for 40 next year, top the 40. But we're very excited. We are at the Small Business Development Center in the process of hiring the student interns who will participate in the educational portion of the business plan competition. And we'll be announcing the finalists next week after next. And they'll start working on their business plan with a business advisor and one of the students in the internship program. And it will all come to fruition on mid-November, and we'll announce it at one of the Coast DC meetings. So we're very excited.
It's going to be great. There's some great competitive applicants in there this year, so
Good.
we're in for a good time.
Good.
But
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thanks for all the work you do. No further public comment. Oh, one more.
Next one is Phil Unotia. All right.
Good morning.
Members of the board, my name is Phil Urrutia. I'm the new city manager here in San Angelo, and just wanted to take a brief opportunity to come and introduce myself and let you know who I am, but also hopefully this sets a foundation for us to be able to build a relationship with one another again. First, I want to state something. I'm dressed a little more casual than I typically would be. We have an employee engagement event today, and so I wanted to participate in that. So just wanted to state that out there. But really wanted to thank the work that you do, and definitely see the importance of an economic development corporation. And it's great to see the community partnership that's here when you see groups like the chamber, city staff, and then you as well taking the time to be here. I'll share a little bit about my background. I started in city government with the city of Odessa, where we did have an economic development corporation, and saw similar participation from the community, and I think it takes a community to continue to retain and recruit new jobs and keep those jobs in our city as well. My most recent stint was with the city of Garland, and I served in an assistant city manager role there, and we did not have an economic development corporation. We did not have that funding due to participating in public transportation. That's where our funding had gone, and so that was definitely a disadvantage to us, not being able to have that tool, and that tool belt is needed, especially for cities in Texas that are competing and have an ability to compete for various industries out there. And so definitely see the importance of this, but again, wanted to be brief, introduce myself, and again, hopefully have the opportunity to visit with you all on more frequently, and be able to be involved with this board as well. So again, thank you for the opportunity to speak, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to catch up. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. I think you're dressed great, by the way. Any further public
No more
comment?
public comment.
All right, we'll move into item 4, consent agenda. Consider approving July 8th, 2026 meeting minutes. Any questions, comments? We've got motion.
Second.
We've got a second. Any public comment on those? Any public comment? Thank you. No public comment. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. We'll move to the regular agenda. Item A, discussion and update on the Northeast Master Plan. Presentation by Eric Head, project lead for Westwood, PS. Morning.
Good deal. Well, it's good to be here this morning. It's always a good trip to San Angelo, so I appreciate this group and all the participants throughout the planning process. We've had really good input from a lot of people across, from citizens to council to city staff, chamber, and of course the Development Corporation. We worked sort of behind the scenes. We had an initial design charrette meeting, working behind the scenes with staff on some ideas. Aaron Bonoy, Rick Wise, Shane Kelton, Patrick Frerick. We've met several times and kind of refined the plan. So what I'm going to do this morning is really kind of take a step back, look at some of our goals and objectives that we had initially, talk about some of the concepts we've got, and kind of finish up with some possible next steps. So just to revisit our project goals, so the city owns roughly 7,700 acres in the northeast part of the city. So we wanted to understand the development potential of the property. Initially, when we started the conversation, the city was in dialogue with a data center developer. And so the city has all this property, and we wanted to make the best use of it. The city wanted to make the best use of it for economic development, et cetera. So we want to understand the development potential of the property, provide certainty to potential developers and businesses, better attract business and investment, and maximize the value for the city. So those are our 4 stated goals when we got started. Project objectives, we wanted to determine the potential for the property in terms of land uses, like what types of land uses, industrial, commercial, et cetera, and how much yield we could achieve from the property. The existing city's existing thoroughfare plan had some thoroughfares on the property. We want to take a look at those thoroughfares and the connectivity between 380 and 67, and how those relationships worked and how it worked with the existing business park. We wanted to determine like how much infrastructure that we would need to implement to open up the property and provide a pathway for development in terms of roads and water and wastewater. We wanted to determine infrastructure costs. What is the impact? What's it going to cost either the city or developers for potential investment in the property? And we wanted to establish some design guidelines for the 67 corridor. The visual aspect of the property is very important too. So we had our first meeting was with a large group. It was really a design charrette, and we developed before the meeting and after the meeting several concepts, just looking at connectivity between the existing thoroughfare system. We looked at some of the constraints of the property, looking at, we have a substation, AEP substation on the north end of the property, some existing power lines, gas lines, floodplain, et cetera. So, Red Creek is on the north side of the property, and the Concho is really on the south, and they meet up kind of on the east side of the property. So we look at those constraints, we look at intersections, and see what we have to work with. So we just developed several concept plans, just different looks at the thoroughfares and how they connect. When you look at thoroughfares and the connectivity, the land use parcels kind of become self-evident. So you kind of end up with some larger parcels, smaller parcels throughout the planning process. Then we can start talking about like land use types. So we took a little detour kind of in the middle of the planning process, and we looked at really a full-blown data center ordinance, if you were involved in any of that. So the ordinance, taking a step back, it became more than just design guidelines for the 67 corridor. So we wrote with, Aaron Vanoy was instrumental in this process, and we did a lot of research across the country, looking at other data center ordinances and what other counties or cities were doing. So we kind of aggregated a lot of that and came up with a lot of new ideas on how to best manage that land use type. So in the ordinance, it has a site plan requirement. The developer has to show the city how many buildings, generators, backup power, smaller substations, et cetera. And landscaping, of course, is part of that package. We looked at setbacks. How far does the buildings and the equipment need to be set back from the property line and other adjacent land uses? We looked at their building height and configurations and have language in the ordinance that addresses that. Parking, employee parking. When the buildings are developed, we have parking requirements and how you landscape within those parking areas. Then the screening from the adjacent future roadways. Right now for the emergent data center, it's just really US 67 is the only adjacent roadway. We have lighting regulations, noise regulations, and then water and wastewater guidance through the utilities group helped a lot with that language and how we manage their water usage and their wastewater usage. So that's in a nutshell. That's what went into the data center ordinance. So you've got a really good basis. The ordinance is probably not perfect. You'll have applications, hopefully, new business that comes in, new data center developers, and the ordinance is something that can be modified along the way. We may have missed something. We may have been too tight on certain things or too loose on certain things. So those things can be updated along the way. Yes, sir.
Go back one, please. Has that been adopted by City Council?
It has been, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. The data center regulations were adopted a little before the water and wastewater. That came through sort of the utilities sections of the city's ordinances.
All right.
Yeah, through the water department. Yep, it's fully adopted. So anybody that comes into the city is looking at property, a data center developer, they'll have to adhere to these regulations.
Okay.
This is just a couple of images of landscaping setback requirements from adjacent roadways to parking area or the building of a data center developer. So we worked through that process, went through several iterations of how we would want that to look. And San Angelo is in a sort of a low rainfall area, so we have to be considerate of the amount of landscaping we would require of a developer. At the end of the day, along the way, working with staff staff, we sort of keep refining our concept plan. And this concept plan was a hand-drawn version of the more refined concept plan. You can kind of see in the thick black lines there, what we've generally outlined as our major thoroughfares. So the scale of the property is somewhat deceiving. The distance between, say, on FM 380, between some of the existing industrial park and the next roadway and the thicker black outline, those intersections are over a mile apart. So it's a very large property. Some of the parcels you see in there, the bubbles, are 800 to 1,000 acres. So some of those are very large parcels that can be subdivided into the future. But we have a connection between one of the main things that we thought was a couple things kind of set the tone for the connectivity. We have a connection between 380 and 67. So we come from the south up 380 with a major thoroughfare, and we parallel an existing 345 kV power line, right? So that's a really efficient way to do that and not create any kind of odd parcels that kind of get left over. So we'll parallel that right away. Then we connect back into City Farm Road at a certain point where it makes the curve to the north, and then connection to US 67. So that was one of the main spine roads in our initial concept. We also have the future freeway that comes in from the north, connecting to the sort of the northwest part of the property, and it connects to that major arterial that runs through the property. The other thing that major arterial does, if there's ever an incident or accident on US 67, it provides an alternate route to get people around that issue. So I think that was a good add to the property. Then we have, it's a little bit hard to see, some of the other thoroughfares that on the east side, connection again between 67 and 380. The green outline is one of those things that it's a bit of a constraint currently, but things might change in 20, 30 years. That is the what I call the TEPDES area. It's an area reserved for gray water, for the reuse water that can be applied to the agricultural activity, crops from the wastewater treatment plant and those holding ponds. So we planned the area, but that's an area that will kind of be set aside for a while and not be developed on. So we have to respect that. That's an area defined by TCEQ permit. Okay. Any questions on that?
I have one, and it's just to understand the scale. So 380 is the road on the southern end of this.
I'm sorry?
380 is the road on the southern end of this corridor.
Oh, wow. There we go.
Oh, nice.
Ooh, look at that.
Okay.
Thank you, Rick.
Can you approximate the distance
Scared to hit the buttons.
from the loop to, I guess, that City Farm Road that kind of runs along the eastern boundary of this?
Yeah, City Farm Road existing City Farm Road is about right here, and it runs up.
Oh, I thought it was further east.
No, it kind of goes by the wastewater treatment plant.
Okay.
Then it goes up along actually the green line there.
Yes.
And by the little recycle area, and to the north side of that, then back up along these holding ponds, and on the south edge. Then it turns to the north right here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's the distance from the loop to that eastern north-south road? Is it a couple of miles?
A couple of miles, right. That's, look at my scale here. 32. Yeah, 3 miles maybe.
3 miles.
I have that right?
Okay.
Yeah. 2.5, 3 miles.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's a lot of land.
It is. Like the scale of the property is deceiving, like I said.
It is.
So, a lot of, in an urban type condition where you have a lot of residential, your arterials tend to want to be about a mile apart, but in an industrial application, that's not a hard, fast rule. So the connection between, there we go. That intersection, and that's the existing roadway for the business park. And here, it's over, it's probably right at a mile right there. Distance between that connection and over here is probably a little bit over a mile. So, but that's for an industrial application, that's fine. And we have an out parcel here that we have to respect too, some rural residential here.
Just for reference, that
first north-south road is right at the east edge of the existing industrial park.
Okay.
Correct.
And then the other question, you were talking about the thoroughfare plan. Obviously, there's plans for a couple of interstates coming through. The East Loop 306, I think, is part of the dedication. And it's my understanding that there's a road that'll extend from east to west, west to east, somewhere in this area, and tie back in on the north end of San Angelo. Do you know where that road might come in?
Well, the exhibits I've seen from TxDOT have, of course, this freeway portion that will actually have I think a connector down this Farnham Market Road, and a connection here, and it just ties in with 67 and 306, and it just keeps going south, further south. I think the highway does peel off and keep going. It goes south. It's at a certain point, but I didn't see any major improvements in this area from TxDOT.
It's the east to west jog. That road that you've got kind of coming into or out of the park and then kind of bending westward.
Up here?
Yeah, that road there.
Yes, that's an approximate spot for what TxDOT is showing on that.
So would that be the interstate?
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
And that power line that's to the north, it's kind of paralleling that power line all the way back to 87.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Perfect. Okay.
Yeah. So that goes, yes, this goes all the way, probably connects into another
Straight
existing
across.
road and,
Yep.
up north.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet. Let's see. So this. Yeah, those tech.
306 and then back across around the city.
Those TxDOT maps, sometimes they're a little hard to come by, but I'm happy to provide what we found through the Texas Department of Transportation and their plans for the area. They're out there. They're probably a couple of different iterations, but I can get that to the group here. So this concept plan, this image is a further refinement of that hand-drawn bubble plan. So we started getting a little more specific in terms of how we want to plan the property. What we did was take a development pattern, building outlines for distribution, for technology, for data center building footprints, and we lay it out all over the property and see how we kind of test our bubble plan concept. And so this is sort of the result of that process, kind of laying in some buildings. How does it work? How does it function? Do we need to add a road? We ended up actually adding a road that kind of became a little bit of an important connector right here, just to service some of this lot manufacturing areas. You need roadways to serve buildings. So a lot of our buildings in here, we had an early discussion about use types, and light industrial distribution was part of the conversation. I think a lot of us feel that with the new freeways as a potential, you might see more distribution. So those buildings are large, 500,000 to 1 million square feet. So that's kind of what we laid out, and it kind of created the need for an additional roadway from our initial concept plan. And I'll talk about the importance of this connection in a little bit when we talk about utilities. There's an existing Atmos gas line that runs on the east side of the property that we can tie into. We've been in discussions with Atmos on serving the property with that. It's a 12-inch Atmos line. So that added roadways connector kind of provided a path for the Atmos infrastructure. You really want, when you have a need like that, you utilize the roadways and the thoroughfares to organize your utilities. You'd rather not have utilities just kind of running all over the place. If you're going to have a major 12-inch gas line or 8-inch gas line, it's a good idea to have a roadway with it, because you're just more efficient with your land use. You're not leaving out and creating problem parcels along the way. So in the concept plan we've got here, we respected what has been going on and worked with Bob on sort of the future vision for the industrial park. And this is reflective of, I think, pretty close to what the vision is. So we've got more roadways as the area down there seems to be a good fit for your 5 to 10 to 15, 20 acre user types, smaller buildings, not distribution, but businesses, business type uses. So we respected that, and we respected some of the interchanges. We got the opportunity for existing interchanges there. We want those connections to make sense. In the area really in the middle can be reserved for light manufacturing uses, industrial distribution, manufacturing, data. And along the way, you've got 7,000 acres, you've got freeway frontage. It's probably a good idea to reserve some commercial property for future. So up in adjacent to 67, we've got about 400 acres of commercial, and that's a really good footprint for commercial. Now, that development for the commercial and the industrial, it won't happen overnight. It's a multi-year, 20-year project once that gets going. We did refine our freeway system a little bit. Our plans got a little bit better. This is more along the lines of what TxDOT's plans really are. And so it hit a little bit further to the north. So we had we wanted this to have the ability to flow through and connect to the park in a direct fashion. So we modified the arterial just a little bit in that area. We did have a reservation. We felt like, okay, for local commercial, there's residential around here and a potential for residential. Here we think it's kind of surrounded by existing residential. Reserved a little commercial, like a 11-acre tract there for your local retail type uses. What else? Land use, future land use. We do have, the wastewater treatment plant could have a need to expand in the future. So we've got some reservation for that use, reserving some open space possibly along the Concho. That's such an asset to the city and this property. Up on the east part of the property, this area over here is it's hard to get to. The connections from existing City Farm Road and possibly the future thoroughfares, it just doesn't have a lot of access, and it's so far out there in the future. We just call it as future development. We don't know what that's going to be. We kind of can see how we can serve this with infrastructure. This is a little more challenging, and you've got so much property to work through in the next 50 years anyway. We're just calling that future development for now, and it's entirely within the TEPDES permit area too. So, and of course the emergent data center is on the north side there. So that's basically the concept plan. Any questions or comments? Aaron or Rick, do y'all have anything to add?
I've got a question about stormwater management. You've talked about the river and Red Creek kind of coming in. Are there floodplain areas within this site? Do you have some general designations of what would be developable for building footprints?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. You're right, exactly. It's hard to see on this map. I have some large-scale printouts, so you probably see a little bit better. But on the screen, it's a little bit hard to see the floodplain. You can kind of see it in orange there.
Yes, sir.
That is the floodplain. We have the floodway in there in the light blue. So yes, we're respecting the floodplain. Some areas you probably have the potential to reclaim some of the floodplain.
Yeah.
But in large part, some of the acreages we respected the floodplain, didn't really get into it.
Okay.
And there are some local drainages in here. So this is a little drainage area. It may have a little floodplain to it, but we've got to respect that. And it actually comes in a little bit to the business park.
Yep.
So as part of our work for you all, we did a flood study. Okay. A drainage study for the entire property and the entire basin, really. And the drainage area is very, very large for Red Creek and the Concho. And what we did as part of that, it wasn't a flood study in the sense that we determined where the floodplain limits were. We're just using FEMA for now, for this 30,000 foot view. But we did determine at our roadway crossings, you know, you have roadways in here, and roadways need to pass the drainage. So we did determine culvert and bridge sizes that are necessary to serve the property, right? So for this, you know, for a roadway crossing here, that little drainage there that's picking up drainage area, we have a size for that culvert. We know what that should be. And again, it's a 30,000 foot look, and we'll get it down. Like if you're developing, you take another look at it and get it down to where, and try to, you know, value engineer any kind of drainage structures you have. But we did take a look at that, yeah.
Thank you.
If I wanted to look at this later, where would I find the design concept plan? Is it online? Is it?
I don't think it's online yet, but we can provide that to
It's
you
not
all.
online yet, but we're gonna be taking it to the planning commission next and then the city council. So we'll be able to post that and put it online, but we can also get it to y'all if you want a copy where we can
I'd love
send
to
you.
have a copy.
One thing I would point out is that when we were looking at the design, and I'll like Eric expand on this a little more, one thing we really also focused on is how can, you know, this is looked at as a industrial park and those type of things, but how can it also be a benefit to the community other than economically? And what you'll see in a lot of these places are they develop, you know, in this case, we developed the roadways and such as boulevard style, really nice, we have landscaping. So what you see is a lot of these things, if they're done right, become an asset to the community where citizens actually go and walk on the weekends and so forth. It's not a high traffic area. So if it's done right, you know, you can have that type of activity, which is walking or riding bikes or whatever, and we see that as, we talked about it a lot, as something you don't expect, but if you do it right, and you can give some examples, it's what actually happens. So that would be the goal here, is to really take advantage of that from a community standpoint as well.
That's right. Even in industrial parks, you're seeing more and more of that walkability, bicycle lanes. You know, I'm from Fort Worth, and so we were involved heavily in the Alliance Development Project, and it was really a mayor initiative, I'd say 10 or 15 years ago, to add bike lanes to every arterial in the city of Fort Worth. And so we were required in the industrial park, serving million-square-foot buildings, to add bike lanes to the roadways. And I thought that was just silly. I thought that, why would you need bike lanes? You're costing another 3 foot of pavement each side. Boy, was I wrong, because guys that are working there or driving trucks, they'll have a bicycle or they'll want to go take a walk after they've, you know, parked their truck, and it provides a great asset for that, for the employees there in the park. And people, you know, you have neighborhoods around industrial parks too, right? So providing that connectivity and not just some desert island of walkability, you've got a connection perhaps between, you know, the south end of the property and the north end of the property along the drainages, along the rivers, or the thoroughfares. It's such a good way to just promote that connectivity between one area and not leave a desert island, and you can't get to another asset that the city may have in the future on the north side of US 67. So it's part of the, like, when we start refining, like if we ever design infrastructure for any future development or utilities along this corridor, we'll need to take a look. We'll want to take a look at that roadway section. What does it need to be? Currently in the thoroughfare plan, I don't think you really have any divided roadways, but you can, right? You can, and we can set the tone for that roadway, design that roadway, organize the utilities in that road, organize the sidewalks and bike lanes if that's what the city wants to see. Does that cover it? All right.
Yeah.
Okay, that was the plan. Now, phase 2 of the plan is working through the master infrastructure budget, right? So what does it, so if the city or the EDC is managing the property, it's a good idea to understand what it's going to cost to develop the property. In terms of roadways, water and sewer, gas service. And so the city, as it develops, or a developer builds a roadway, you know the cost of that roadway beforehand, and you can assign cost basis, to your raw land over time. So if a road and water line, wastewater line go in, well, that property next to it is probably going to be worth more than it was yesterday, right? So you can kind of project what that value for land is going to be. You can present the cost to potential developers that want to land in a certain area at the park, and you know generally what it will cost to develop that property. And that puts you ahead, knowing that information puts you ahead of the game. You're not just starting from, well, we'll have to figure that out. Well, you can refer to some of what we prepared and have a really good idea of what it would take to open up a particular piece of property. So I'll take you through some paving and storm drains and wastewater and water maps real quickly. So this is our paving and storm drain map. I mentioned the flood study where we sized the different culverts, bridges. So the little bubbles represent segments of roadway or a drainage crossing. And we have in our master infrastructure budget spreadsheet, we have a cost assigned to that. So we did a cost estimate on all the infrastructure in the park, the future infrastructure. So that's what that represents. If a roadway is, you have two properties either side of a roadway, we split the cost. Half goes to one parcel, half goes to the other. So that's how we designed our master infrastructure budget. And that, again, this is roadway and culverts and such. This is the water infrastructure required to serve the property. The city had done a study, a water study, and we just basically took what was done there. There will be a 16-inch required, this is the largest water line, 16-inch water line from an existing point at Bell Street to the future thoroughfare, up the future thoroughfare. Plans are flexible. Understand that anything we've done here, you want to remain flexible, right? So you may have a user that doesn't really fit what the parcels we've outlined. Well, we can adjust that and kind of figure that out. But water line, the 16-inch water line loops around, connects back to the jail, or actually that 16-inch goes into a point at Ballinger Road. And for the rest of the park, generally in industrial parks, a 12-inch water line is what you see serving all the properties. So we outline 12-inch water lines everywhere. The wastewater took a little more effort than the water did. We actually looked at the drainage areas and what's coming in to the parcels and through the parcels and sized those sewer lines accordingly. So we actually looked at drainage areas off-site. So we kind of didn't do this just in a vacuum. We figured if you have development more immediately here, or if the highway goes in, you're going to see some development across the highway. So we include those areas. So you might have like a 18-inch, I can't read that, but a 21-inch that goes into a 28-inch or 27-inch and down to the wastewater treatment plant. So all those are sized appropriately. Atmos. So we we went through a process of looking at the different land use types and what those typical land use types require in terms of gas delivery, what they use. So we did comparables in the Metroplex, which has a similar climate as San Angelo in terms of heating. So though a lot of those values are very similar. So we took their requirements, peak demand, and presented this to Atmos in terms of the BTUs required to service the future land uses. And so we've had a couple of meetings with Atmos talking about how to serve the property. And this is the gas infrastructure that I mentioned earlier, existing 12-inch gas line that runs along part of City Farm Road and down past 380. So we would connect onto that at that point, utilize a future thoroughfare here and here, and gas service down through the existing business park and up to a certain point as required by the end user. So this is the first tab. I mentioned the master infrastructure budget. This is the first tab on that spreadsheet. This is a summary of the infrastructure costs for the park, okay? I won't go in detail for all the numbers, but again, we have paving, water, wastewater, Atmos in there. Atmos gave us a cost estimate for their infrastructure. So at the end of the day, total cost for the total development, you can see here, and we have our areas outlined in different just different development areas, and we assign, again, those circles are assigned, one side of the road or the other to these different parcels, land use types. And we have a total for each of those. But at the end of the day, the total park development, we've got it sitting right now like 287. I think that's low. I think one of the things that you'll notice in our plan, I'll go back to it in a minute, in the different land use areas, in the cost per acre, I want to point out commercial areas, cost per acre, 14,028. Let me get to the business park. So you can kind of see, so business park, what we developed there in terms of cost is like $60,000 an acre. And some of these other ones are like, 20, 21, 28, and those are your bigger parcels, right? Those are the big parcels that have limited infrastructure per acre. If I can go back. And so in our plan, you'll notice that the existing industrial park has a lot more infrastructure, per acre than some of these larger parcels do. So that's the reason why the cost per acre in the business park is more than some of these mega parcels, if you will. So typically, on a residential development, or if you have an intensive development like the industrial park is, you'll be looking at $50,000 to $60,000 an acre project cost. So that's why I say our overall cost is probably low. One of the things we did, I'll just point this little detail out, we utilized the existing section for all our roadways that's in the existing business park. Now, if the city we want to upgrade that to a concrete section, those costs go up. But we just kind of use the existing section as a baseline for our cost. Any questions on the master infrastructure budget?
Gas.
Yes.
I want to talk about gas a little bit.
Okay.
So you said, I think, that there's a 12-inch line on the east side of this land area?
Yes.
And it's an Atmos line?
Atmos adjacent. There's another pipeline company involved, right?
Travis, I don't want to lie on that.
No, it's okay.
Our conversations were through Atmos, and they're the ones who would tap it, regulate it, do all that. So whether or not someone else owns something, I don't know.
Okay. I think having gas out here is really important for future development, and I think it's great news to see that we have a pretty sizable line that's already in the general area.
Exactly. Yeah, this provides the ability to serve the rest of the property. And like Rick said, the gentleman we've been talking to are with Atmos, but I think the pipeline company is different, and they're dealing with a different group, and they're on the distribution side, right? Yeah. So the transmission group it's a different group on that existing pipeline.
And we had a lot of discussion with them about sizing,
Yeah.
what size you want to run that. Is 8 enough, or do you need to do 10? Now, I will say, if you're talking like data center or something,
Yes.
that's a total different discussion, because it
That's where I was
requires
going.
Right, no, so, and for instance, in this current case, the emergent has no intention of using gas.
Right.
So, but in the future for someone else, it is possible, but they said basically that's a whole nother process you have to go through. So this, while it takes into account trying to accommodate maybe some larger users that these guys have been working with solar panels or
Yes.
whatever, it tries to accommodate that. But as far as a data center, not necessarily.
Different deal.
That's a different
Okay.
discussion. Not that it couldn't be done, it's just another,
Yeah, that would be my
total
understanding.
different group you have to jump through.
And that would be a different line too. The line we show is more the distribution. A line to power a data center would be from the transmission group.
Correct.
Okay.
If you
So
were
it'd be-
using it for startup or gap or some of those kind of things, then possibly so,
Okay.
through a line like this, but not for overall operation.
Thank you. It's helpful.
Any questions about the master infrastructure budget? I know it's a lot of numbers, and you're welcome to keep looking through this and, let us know if you have any questions.
The business park industrial, if you go back to that map that you had, some of that's already been developed.
Yes.
So and I understand that the density of the development is going to elevate the cost, but were you looking only at new road construction, or if there was an existing road within this plan, how was that accounted for in your,
Sure, we
in your
didn't do any,
analysis?
yeah, the existing roadways, we didn't do a cost analysis in any of those.
Okay.
We respected those in the park, that existing is the area that doesn't have any, color on it. It's not red, that's the existing park right there. So the roadway, the main road goes up to an existing roundabout, and I think,
Okay, here's my question.
yeah.
If we have a parcel in the industrial park that someone approaches us to purchase, can we look at that 60,000 an acre number that you put for the business park parcels as kind of a basis of what the utility and road infrastructure cost benefit might be if it was already in?
You could. There may be some areas, though, that you have the road may exist already.
Yes.
And they could just develop their site, and there's no infrastructure. So that's like infrastructure costs zero, other than the site development.
Right.
But overall, generally, for the remainder of this area, with all the utilities and roadways in that red area there, it's, yeah, generally gonna be $50, $60, $1,000 an acre.
By the middle of middle of September, we should have an actual cost of the next phase of development in the industrial park.
Okay, thank you.
Bob, do we have issue with any of our current folks we talk to at the current industrial park that pass because we don't have Atlas in the current industrial park?
We have I think this is where you're going. We have, ATI has 37 acres, 36 acres under contract. The big challenge they have is that one of their users is a very high gas demand, and it's about a you can go $5 to $10 million depending on how you get it there, to bring gas to that site. We're getting about $2.3 million for the property. Obviously, it's not very economical for us to do that. ATI is doing a build to suit. That's way more than they anticipated in negotiating with their client. So they're actually looking at other sites within the city limits at this time. But so the gas in particular is a challenge right now. Water and sewer, I think we can get there, but.
But if we adopt this plan, if council adopts it, it might give us, at least we know the pathway of how to connect to
Yes.
the 12-inch and follow the lines so that we could address in the next one.
Right.
Somewhere down the road. And figure out how do we do a shared cost or reimbursement or something, because I know that happens a lot on some of these.
And we did a mod to our engineering contract a month or so ago to revise the design slightly to make it more aligned with these
This
plans.
plan.
Right.
Thank you.
So next steps, here we are today. Northeast Sector Plan to Coast of DC. Next Monday is Planning Commission, and then we'll move on to City Council for final adoption of the concept. Possible next steps that we've talked about, which we think would be a good idea, is sort of preparing the property for that next step, right? Getting the property entitled that will provide certainty to prospective end users, developers, that the city has a plan, and you do that through annexation, amending the master thoroughfare plan, the master land use plan, and possibly zoning the property to light manufacturing or commercial or whatever the case may be. So those are your next steps, and that's a really good pathway forward. It again, certainty is a big deal when you're talking to end users, developers, and speed to market, right? You get all the property entitled, and it's there, and they're pulling building permits, not having to go through an entitlement process, which is not certain sometimes. So, yeah, and one thing I'll point out, you talked about the gas line a minute ago and how it would be an asset to maybe serve a user in the business park. The downside, we've talked about this with staff, the downside of doing any of that, setting a water line alignment or a gas line alignment, it's like you're setting an alignment. Like that is going to be your road and you need to work with. That's the risk, right? But if you can do that, if you make that connection to the existing Atmos pipeline over to the business park, you've just got a $10 million asset in the ground that's there and it's ready to be connected to an end user. So downside is you're setting an alignment, right? The upside is you've got an asset that you can better market the property with.
Yeah, I think to your point, Eric, providing predictability and certainty to the development is important for attracting investors into this area. So I think the plan you guys have put together is great. I'm excited about it.
Good.
So it doesn't appear this is an action item because it doesn't say that on the agenda, but I'm just curious, would it help the Planning Commission and Council if Costa DC said this looks good or somehow pass along our thoughts?
I think they would appreciate that. I think that's what these boards and commissions are for, is to give them another group of eyes looking at it. So I think that would be appropriate.
Well, so an unofficial, we like it, since we can't take an official action.
Right, you took the words out of my
Well,
mouth.
since
Just
that
nothing
can't be a
official.
motion, I know how I feel, and I would state that according.
Staff might be able to send them a letter saying that the board was pretty enthusiastic in their reception of this plan.
Yeah, that works.
Eric, this is great. Really, really appreciate this. I think I speak for the board, consensus of the board. This is phenomenal. This is exactly what we needed, what we asked for. So really appreciate you coming and doing this for us. It's great. Thank you. Any other questions for Eric while he's here? We've got him here.
I'll be around after too, so you guys get me. Well, thank you for the opportunity to be
Eric.
here today and work with the folks at the city and the chamber and the EDC. We really appreciate the opportunity. It's been a fun project, and it'll continue to be a fun project for everybody.
Thank you, Eric.
Eric, one question. If you have no objection, we've got your graphics, copies of your graphics. Do you have a problem with us sending those out to the board?
I do not. Yeah. The other thing that we're working on, I forgot to mention, so I took you through the infrastructure maps. They have the little bubbles on them. Those are a little bit cluttered, and those were for the costing of infrastructure. Right. We're working on basically marketing maps that clean those up, so the city or chamber, EDC, will be able to take a package and have the concept plan, have a water plan, have a gas plan, wastewater plan, electrical plan with existing electrical lines that are there. So you could use those to introduce the property to prospective businesses or developers. So you'll get that too eventually.
Thanks. Thank you, Eric. Do we have any public comment on that item? Samuel, do we have any public comment? Okay. Y'all ready to move forward? We'll go ahead and move to item B, consider approving Costa DC third quarter financials, presentation by Jonathan Flores, Finance Director.
Good morning, Board. Jonathan Flores, Corporate Treasurer. I'm going to run through our financials for the third quarter of the fiscal year. Starting off with sales tax. Sales tax was up for the month of June, and these will be June financials, 7.11%. In July, we did also see an increase of about 5.82%. So we've seen a strong sales tax the last couple months that's kind of helped offset the decrease we saw in February, as well as the relatively flat sales tax in January. So right now, year to date, we've seen sales tax up about 3.15%, which means that we are currently revenue over budget of about $438,000. So sales tax has performed. For the Economic Development Fund, we currently have committed for economic development projects of $2.3 million and an unassigned fund balance of $9.6 million. That's made up of cash of $9.6 million, investments of $3 million, as well as some of those security deposits and accounts payable on the liability side of the balance sheet. For revenue and expenditures on the Economic Development Fund, the monthly allocation for sales tax in the month of June was $305,000. On the expenditure side, we saw payments for COCDC staff and city services. These are quarterly payments that are made to the city for the services of the staff. On the project side, we made payments for the housing study, which I believe was the last payment, as well as payments to Park Hill Smith Cooper, payment for the Northeast Sector Plan, a BREP project payment for True Lighting, as well as $17,000 paid for Goodfellow support services. On the ballot side of the fund,
Jonathan, I hate to interrupt you, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, yes, sir.
Before we leave this one, there's a list of projects here. It looks like we've got about $2 million outside of future projects that's unfunded but committed. Do you expect that we're going to fund all of these projects? Are there projects listed that may not fully fund? Can you just kind of provide a general update on the projects and BREP projects?
Yes, sir. So for the most part, when we get a project, when a project is approved by the board, we go ahead and allocate that funding immediately. A lot of the project payments that are made after that are subject to the economic development agreement inside that project. So whether they're meeting those performance incentives, a lot of these do have some yearly payments built into them. And right now, we're kind of closer to the end of the year where we start to actually look at what projects are going to be made, who's actually going to satisfy their incentive contracts, and we'll make adjustments to those hopefully in the next couple of months, beginning in August this month. So I don't have a good number as far as where we'll be at the end of the year, what payments will be made. Anything that isn't made related to these contracts will be carried over to the next year, and then anything that's in that future projects will follow the fund balance for future project use.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. On the ballot side of the economic development funds, there's $14.6 million in cash, $4 million in investment, and that leaves us $578,000 committed in fund balance for ballot projects and an unassigned fund balance of $18 million. On the revenue and expenditure side of the fund, the sales tax allocation for the month of June was $784,000, and we had 2 quarterly payments for city services and city admin as well. We also include the transaction listing, disbursement listing for the month as well, and then the Hickory fund that the water debt service payments go to support.
One question on this one, the debt service that's listed on the schedule for the ballot.
Yes, sir.
Do you have a general idea of the term of that debt service?
So for the ballot projects themselves, I believe the last debt payment we'll make is in fiscal year 27.
27?
Yes, sir. So that final debt payment's coming up. And then for
would that exhaust all of the 2.9 that's?
No, sir, that's on the ballot projects debt service. That's that 1.2 that's up there at the top.
Oh, at the top, got it.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And then the debt service for long-term water supply, the 2.9 that you mentioned, I believe those payments for the Hickory go out to 2036, 2035, if I remember correctly.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir. I'd be happy to take any other questions.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Jonathan.
Yes, sir.
Do we have public comment? Do we have any further? Okay, I'll quit asking. Thank you. We'll entertain a motion to approve the third quarter financials.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion? We have a second? Got a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you, Jonathan. All right, we'll move into item C, consider approving a resolution authorizing the board president to negotiate and execute a memorandum of understanding, MOU, with the city of San Angelo in the amount not to exceed $50,450 for funding of the Santa Fe East Park Kids Kingdom Landscape Design Services, a project authorized under Section 505.152 of the Texas Development Corporation Act, and recommending approval by City Council. Presentation by Carl White, Director of Parks and Recreation.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Last time we were here, Parks and Recreation, was in June, and we presented a short list of projects that we are working on at different levels of progress. That included bank stabilization, design work, and hopefully follow up actual construction of that project. The River Parks Master Plan, which we're working on now, and we probably should bring that to y'all as an update here in the future where that is. That project includes that big sculpture project, which is ongoing. I believe the fundraising is about $12 million for that. I think their ultimate goal was about $30 million. And then there was a few other projects, but we also mentioned Kids Kingdom, the need to replace that playground. So at the time, we are working with SWA out of Houston for the master plan, the River Parks Master Plan. So we reached out to them and said, hey, give us a proposal. I use the word quote, but it's a proposal. Give us a proposal on what it would take for y'all to redesign that park and that playground. They gave us that proposal, and the direction they were kind of going with that, it was quite costly, the proposal and the playground, potential playgrounds. So it got us to take a step back and look at all of our options. Most of the options we had been looking at in the direction that SWA was likely to go didn't really seem to fit us. And so we reached out to Leathers Associates. Leathers Associates is the firm that we, the city, the Health Foundation, the Junior League worked with back in 2002, 2003 to build Kids Kingdom. It's the same company. And so we started conversations with them, phone calls, emails, online meetings, to talk about the possibility of them coming and redoing the playground. That discernment process led to today's request. We looked at, current projects that they're doing in different locations. They're using different materials than they did before, materials that last longer, better construction methods. And so we felt satisfied after looking at even getting shipments of materials to us. We're satisfied that this would be a good direction to go. So we are requesting the $50,450 to hire Leathers to lead us through the design process for the new playground. And so this just includes the design. It doesn't include the construction. At the point after the design, we're currently thinking about hiring a contractor to do the project, not do a community build like we did last time. I think the door is still open for that, but at present, we don't have a group that's stepping forward and say, hey, we'll lead that effort. Through the process of the design, we'll learn about the potential cost of the playground, which we think is be about $1.25 million. We think it's still a good location to include a splash pad. So we're going to carve out some space for that potential future development adjacent to this playground or near the playground. And that'll be a separate effort. So I'm going to show some slides. Y'all have seen some of these. This is Kids Kingdom currently. Now, 23 years old? We looked at all different kind of options. These are some that SWA was looking at. And these are the costs that are more kind of, I think, in our range. But it looks fun, but it just doesn't seem to fit that location. And then, again, working with SWA, some more custom-made themed projects, which are, of course, more expensive, but they can help you fit the playground to what we want. But again, more expensive. And then we looked at just commercial playground again. What could we do within our budget that we think about $1.5 million? Looks fun again, but it's not us. Y'all seen some of these. And of course, going to $5 million, it kind of probably out of our range, but it looks cool. So going back to Leathers Associates, you can design a custom-made playground. Through that process, they actually come down and visit with the community, set up meetings with children, get their input. So the design is driven from the ground up. And here are some recent playgrounds that they've done. This one in Oklahoma, which is in the same price range. Looks very similar to our Kids Kingdom. And then again, another one in Oregon. So this is what we're asking for, $50,450 for the design work, working with Weathers Associates. If y'all have any questions.
I have a couple. The 1.2, 1.3 million that you're estimating, what is the basis of that estimate?
For me, it's kind of something that we think is already within our range of possibility of constructing. I think it's going to be a stretch to ask for much more than that. Rick has something to say?
Well, I was just going to say, when we were talking with them, that basically was looking at doing something as large as we currently have or larger. So getting something of at least equal excitement and size.
Yeah, it's basically kind of matching the same scope and scale of what we have now.
Okay. You mentioned the Parks Master Plan. I know that we've got a comprehensive plan that's also in the works. I don't know what the long-term vision is. Obviously, I think that this is probably going to be a park going forward. What direction do we have from those projects that are underway to provide guidance for a direction that we're going to try to get on this kids'
The comprehensive plan is going to include for the first time, the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. Usually we do that separately. It's going to get tied into the comp plan this time. So that process is just starting. The River Parks Master Plan, we're working on that, and all the surveys. We've done 2 surveys and then a public meeting. All the direction we're getting is folks want a playground at that same location, similar to what we already have.
Okay.
And the playground that we have now it's almost at the verge where we may have to close it because we keep losing elements to it, and it's at that point where it needs to be replaced.
Do you have funding that's been allocated for replacement of Kids Kingdom?
Not yet, but we've had conversations with like the Health Foundation. I think there's potential there.
Yeah, as Carl said, no, but typically what we've seen is in the effort to try to obtain funding,
Yes.
we need to have a plan. And so if you have a plan, especially a plan that's shovel-ready, it allows you to get some accurate estimates on exactly what you need, and then getting funding is much easier versus just coming with we think it's going to cost blah. So
The concern I have, just based on kind of where we are, is it feels a little bit of like cart before the horse. You know, we've got a couple of really big plans underway, and we don't have a clear direction and commitment to from those plans for a replacement of this playground. That's my concern. And obviously, the city's ordered a lot of studies historically, and I don't want to pay for something that sits on the shelf for 10 or 15 years and then becomes obsolete when funding comes available.
my answer to that would be that, you know, from my perspective, these are totally different projects. They happen to be the park study is the river park study, so it's not the entire park system. It's just the river parks, and of course this area is included. That study will not do a detailed layout of this park. It will say, yes, from our survey, the citizens have said they want to continue to have one there, so it will be designated as such within the plan. As far as the comp plan, you know, these are things that would just be put into that one. He's not doing a unique study specifically on this area. So I don't know what to tell you other than we have had a lot of input from the public saying this is very important to them. And it's reached a stage where it's not one you can repair. I think the city's done, most of these parks that have been done out of this material, San Angelo's has outlasted. That's how good of a job the Parks Department has done on maintaining it. But it's reached the end of its life. So we're just trying to be proactive instead of the thing being shut down, is to figure out a way to, one, get it funded for design and then start looking for the money. But yeah, I can't guarantee you that it's gonna be built just because we do this design. But we have a lot better time
didn't
getting
ask
grants
that,
or
yeah.
anything else if we have a design we can show.
Okay.
What is the current footprint of Kids Kingdom?
I think it's about 12,500 square feet.
So we're looking at about the same size.
Yes, basically taking the same area that the current Kids Kingdom is now.
We're kind of landlocked.
We've actually acquired some additional properties just north of that with the trees, and then there's that open area that's northwest of the playground.
Okay.
So maybe we could shift some elements over there, or maybe add the splash pad there.
Carl, just a curiosity question, and there may not be a way to capture this, but are we aware of folks that actually come in from out of town to visit this park and generate sales tax dollars while they're here? And I'm trying to put a return on investment on this thing.
Yes, I mean, we have anecdotal
Sure. It's
evidence
hard
of
to
that, but
quantify.
not like objective evidence. But we know that it's happening. And we have school buses from all over the Concho Valley that come here to drop off kids to play.
Yeah, it's pretty much our most heavily utilized park in town in that regard. There's not a time. The thing that, touching on y'all's questions about it staying here, is also that you've already got the infrastructure there. You've got the bathrooms, you've got a pavilion, you've got a parking lot. So by redoing it in this location, you're maximizing, you're not saying we need to build all this new stuff. So this is clearly the best location. It's a popular spot.
What is the deliverable for the $50,000 request that you're making?
Just the whole design process, working with the community, ending up with construction documents.
Okay. And you're gonna work with Leathers?
Leathers Associates, yes.
So Leathers would provide a design, and then we would also hire Leathers to provide the product itself and build it?
The construction, yes.
Okay.
They've already provided a sole source affidavit and justification for that.
Any other questions? Comments, concerns?
I don't know.
And this is, Carl, just a curiosity question. You guys are part of the general fund. Is the general fund unable to fund this? I guess again, the curiosity question is, why are we coming to Costa DC to request the 50,000? If it's a funding issue, I get it. And just like I said, more or less curiosity question.
Yeah, I can't answer that question.
Sorry, Rick.
No problem. Carl's budget does not have funding in it to cover this. It typically, it would be a special request. Does the general fund have budget in it? I would say no now. Does the reserve? Yes, council could take money out of reserve and fund things like this. The reason we're bringing this to y'all first is, to be quite honest with you, it's a very San Angelo quality of life item. And so we brought various ideas to y'all before. We didn't ask for funding. We just brought ideas of things that are upcoming that we thought this board might think were cool to be involved with from a community standpoint. Of all the projects we do, this is probably one of the most popular ones. It seemed like a good fit for Costa DC that they might want to be involved. So yes, could the city pull money out of reserves? Yes, they could. Have we asked them? No. So we brought this to y'all first as an update. If you don't want to fund it, then we, as we do normally, will go look in other places as well and see what we can find, and it may or may not happen. But anyway, wanted to bring it to y'all first.
And I think this is a great project. Don't get me wrong. I think it's phenomenal. I think there's a lot of organizations downtown, YMCA included, that, there's a lot of folks that utilize this park. I think it's a phenomenal project. It's, the basis for my question is we have to be good stewards of the sales tax money and justify utilization of these funds. So that's where the questions are coming from. So thank you, Rick, for that. Anything else?
It seems a little bit unusual to engage someone to build the playground and pay a fee for them to provide the design. You're not gonna be able to, once you've committed the $50,000 or whatever this is for the design, you're committed to that provider of the equipment for the project. And so it sounds like based on your presentation that Leathers is the direction you guys want to go. I know there are other providers of playground equipment. I don't know.
My answer would be, and Carl, correct me if I'm wrong, just because Leathers puts this design together for us does not mean that we have to use Leathers to build it.
Okay.
They offer that service, and from our research we've done, it's much more economical than going the other route, like by millions.
Okay.
And so that's why we're suggesting it. You don't have to use them. You could still do a community build if you want to. Or you could hire some totally different contractor to build it, as best I know.
No,
No, they have to build it?
the other option is a community build.
Okay, so community build or they build it?
Yes.
Okay, clarify that. But the reason being, our first choice was, to be quite honest with you, not going this way because of the materials and so forth. We wanted something more long-lasting. But when we did the research, we found the cost of those were very expensive. Thus, we punted back to see what materials they use now. That's why the change, and the cost is much more economical. So, sorry, the correction, you'd have to do community build if you don't use them.
Okay. What's the lifespan of what's there, and what would the lifespan of what is proposed be?
The new lifespan is 30 years.
30 years.
With the new materials. The existing one, about 20, and we've exceeded that, but
Yeah.
that's because there's a lot of wood elements
Right.
and wood contacted to the ground, which tends
Yeah.
to rot.
Yes.
In this case, it's not wood, it's a different material, and the lifespan is estimated to be at least 30 years.
Okay. That's good.
Any other questions, comments? Entertain a motion of some kind. Anyone?
I'll get the ball rolling. I would make a motion that we approve this request.
Okay, got a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Got a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you, Carl, for all the responses on that. Thank you, Rick, as well. Both Ricks. All right, we'll move into item D, presentation and discussion regarding Chamber of Commerce, Economic Development, financial statements, presentation by Steve Elanius, President and CEO.
Mr. Chairman, Board Member Steve Elanius, President and CEO of the San Angelo Chamber of Commerce. You have before you the financials up to date through June. We are on track in terms of the expenditures and what we've been working on as far as KPIs. I want to do a shout out to Ryan Gaddy. We wanted to make sure we got it in a format that he wanted to see, that you wanted to see as far as the board. And so, yeah, he was very patient with working with us in terms of getting this lined out. We're pretty much on track in terms of what we're anticipating as far as expenditures. I want you also to keep in mind that this budget also includes, and when you see the 618, it also includes about a $32,000 contribution from the Cornerstone funds to help underwrite economic development. And I think it's a good strategy to have both the chamber contributing funds toward economic development in the city and also some private sector businesses. I'd be happy to try to answer any questions that you might have, specifically as it relates.
did have one question on the Texas Economic Development membership. Did we not do that last year?
We paid for that out of the Cornerstone funds.
Okay, so we were in fact members.
Yes, we are
Okay.
members, yeah.
Because I believe this board was pretty adamant about that,
Yeah.
the importance of that. So I
Yeah,
just-
yeah,
okay.
it's a great organization.
Okay. Are there any other questions while he's on the stage?
Not at this time.
Nice work on the financials, you guys.
Well, I give Ryan Gaddy credit for that. He wanted it in a certain format, and he was very patient with us. We have, as you know, when you report to different boards, they want things in a different different formats, and so working through that, we appreciate his help in getting it lined up.
I did have one question, one other question. The special projects line, I believe that was moved into a different line, I believe?
For next year.
For next year.
For the next fiscal year, we moved that into basically travel.
Okay, so what was the basis of that initial 20,000 being?
It was.
What is special projects?
It was to give us some flexibility if something emerged that we felt like it was important to invest in or to spend money on. That was the original intent for that. And what we've used it for to date is the Focus on Business program, and, the cost associated with that.
Okay. I think that was the major change that I saw. So.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions on the financial portion of that?
Not right now.
Okay, we'll move forward. Thank you, Steve. Don't go far. All right, we'll go to item E, presentation and discussion regarding the 2027 Chamber of Commerce Marketing and Recruitment Budget and KPIs, Key Performance Indicators.
We have Mike make that presentation.
Okay. Michael Looney, good morning.
Good morning to you all. We'll start off with keep the current slide the way we have it. Budget and KPIs. I wanted to keep this slide up, and I wanted to do a little bit of extra presentation. And if it's something that you feel comfortable with, and we don't need to go into too much of a deep dive conversation, we sure can. We found that I want to preamble by saying that the collaboration between the Costa DC team, the Chamber team, has probably never been stronger, and probably not even as close as a tight-knit communication and force multiplication effort. We've been, when you go through change, you're always, no one likes change, and so we brought on Andrew Killingsworth, and of course the DC brought on Ryan, and then Samuel Helm. And we found that the personalities and the mission focus has been really pure and very steady and very aggressive too. So we're finding a lot of creativity and collaboration. And that was kind of riffing off of what Steve said. We provide a lot of different financial frameworks to a lot of different groups. They want to see things in different ways. And so Ryan came over last Friday, and we workshopped it for 2 hours just to make sure we got it right. And that was very constructive. That also tells you a lot about Ryan's personality and his commitment to making sure that we get things in a format that's a little bit more succinct. So the total budget amount for 27 we will remain the same as it was in fiscal year 26. We ask that the total Costa DC funding be maintained at the 476. Some highlights are, as you said a moment ago, Steve, the $25,000 for the Texas Economic Development Corporation. In 26, we use the Cornerstone funds. We'd like to use DC funds. And I think it was a really good idea for us to test it out with Cornerstone funds. For those who aren't familiar, that is private money that the Chamber raises every year just to augment our budget, just to add to it. We found that program to be very useful. And we want to continue on with that. And people may ask, well, what is that? What is the Texas Economic Development Corporation? Texas Economic Development Corporation is a network of EDCs throughout the state in close relationship with the governor's Economic Development Office. And that leads to a lot of trade shows, trade conferences, connections, databases, and relationship building between industry and different communities throughout Texas. They have a lot of programs every year. Usually it's 1 to 2 per month, and some of those are travel related too. And you can pick and choose which ones you think are the best for the community that you represent. So we'd like to continue on with that one. You're gonna see on this, we've increased budget appropriations for BRE, Business Retention and Expansion, with Andrew and Samuel working together very tightly, very collaboratively, making a lot of outreach calls and visits. That has really vetted out an understanding of the needs of the different industrial operations throughout the San Angelo city limits. And we're finding that those conversations held multiple times over time is really leading to the revelation of more detailed information, because it gets the different companies that we have in San Angelo really thinking about things that sometimes they may not think too much about until a problem occurs, like a workforce training, automation. That's become something that Andrew and I and Samuel have really noticed, that there's an increasing reliance on that as well. We've eliminated the special projects line, as you just noted a second ago, and we're putting that into travel. Most of the little bit larger expenditures that come up rather suddenly. There were a couple of trips that we made fiscal year 26. One was to Washington, D.C. We didn't know about it until 10 days before we were there. In fact, yesterday we just got notified that there's a operation in Austin that wants to see us next week. And so these aren't things that we planned, but we like to have those dollars available to rapid deploy in case we need to do that. Relative to travel, one of the outreach programs that we've always wanted to do more of are meetings and visits to corporate headquarters with some of our larger employers. For example, Goodyear, Rosenberger, Johnson & Johnson, similar companies to that. A lot of the companies that we have in San Angelo in the industrial sector actually have headquarters that are outside of San Angelo or outside of Texas. And we find those visits to be very constructive for discussions about expanding their operations within San Angelo. In fact, just a minute ago, I sent a text to Bob about a company that has their headquarters outside of Texas, and we actually check it out. Wanting to have a discussion, that's a good thing. And then the 5,000 in marketing and development, we put that towards the business retention and expansion effort. So we think that cleans it up a little bit. Are there any questions at this point, as you guys have been looking at this detailed analysis? If there's any questions, just feel free to jump in.
I have 2 questions.
Yeah, go.
So, travel of 47, are there any costs that are not travel related that would be expended out of that budget? Reimbursement for travel, or are there trade show fees or anything that might be part of that?
Thank you very much for that. It's not just airline tickets and gas. I mean, it's in car rentals. I mean, it is for the fees, for the conferences. You can upgrade those. Some who listening in may not know, you can get higher levels of access at different trade conferences if you pay an extra $100. They'll have a sit-down meeting with industry leaders where you can have more intimate conversations, and so it's kind of a layered approach. And yes, we will pick and choose, and we will use some of those dollars for those amplifications of our efforts at these different trade conferences.
Yeah.
The good question.
Well, and you mentioned the short notice for some of the trips that you guys are taking. I'm assuming that there are probably trade shows. I know from being in the hospitality business that trade shows are often working years in advance for their plans. Do you have a schedule of events that you guys have put on the calendar for
attending? It goes about 18 months out. It goes about 18 months out is when we we can see those conferences that are approximately 18 months out. Some of them are 3 years out, and we can know which ones we're going to go to. The way we do it is we look at each trade conference very individually. We don't want to just go to trade conferences kind of on a trolling mission. We want to go there for a more specific mission. And usually what we'll do is we will collaborate with a company that we're either recruiting, wanting to recruit, or is already here in San Angelo that will also be attending, so that we're working in concert with that company at these trade conferences. And it kind of acts as a mutual support organization. So we're promoting their industry, and they're helping us get into the door with other suppliers that they are there to have discussions with as well. And so we're kind of be selective about that, and we found that to be a good approach. But yes, there are different enhancements to the different meetings. Some of them do tend to come up kind of short notice. For example, a couple of weeks ago, we got a notification from one of our larger electronics suppliers and manufacturers that they're going to be at a trade conference, and they said, we'd really love for you to attend to it. It's a very industry-specific trade conference, and we weren't that familiar with it. But of course, when a company that's here, an incumbent company, asks, would you guys be able to come with us? It's kind of hard to say no to that. So they obviously have a good reason for doing it. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, I think that helps.
Okay.
Do you guys have a list of trade shows or conferences that you're planning to attend?
Mm-hmm. Yes, we do.
I know that's not all of them, but.
We sure do.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yep. And what we'll do is we'll actually vet those out with several of our larger companies that are here. It doesn't have to be a large company. It could just be a company that's very active in the market here, and ask them if they have any interest in attending with us. Perhaps they may be there already, or sending a representative, or if they could help make introductions to other suppliers and companies that are going to be attending those conferences. So we'll actually take that list and send it to our manufacturers here in town, to our SARMA Manufacturing Alliance. Sure. And we found that to be quite helpful.
I'd be interested to see what conferences you guys are planning to attend in the next year, if at some point. It doesn't have to be right now, but
I'd love to get that to you.
Okay.
I'd be excited to get that to you. I think that'd be something you'd find to be very interested in seeing.
The other question, I'm looking at some of the paperwork that Mr. Gaddy put together for us. The 26 budget was 618. The 27 proposed budget is 586. And the difference, it looks like, is the cornerstone. Mm-hmm. So I just want to be clear, the change of the funding request of us hasn't changed, but there is a reduction in the overall budget.
Excellent point. Thank you. Yes, anything that's over the DC contribution comes from Cornerstone. Yes. Or the county. Cornerstone is a little bit more of a fungible source of funding, and that is raised each year, and so that kind of fills the gaps and plugs the holes.
Okay.
And so yes, that's correct. So we use the Cornerstone Fund to layer on top of the platform of funding that we get that we earn from the Development Corporation and the county.
Okay.
County's contribution is I can't see it far. I think is the 110 on there.
Yes,
yeah,
right.
that's the most recent maximum level of funding that we've received from the county. The county has increased their economic development outreach effort funding every year since 2019.
Okay.
And so we haven't had a hearing yet. We don't know exactly what they're going to decide on the.
Do they operate on the same fiscal year?
I think they do. I believe they do. Yeah,
okay.
They do operate on a fiscal year basis.
Okay.
Okay. Moving on. On cap investment, you'll notice that we reduced that down to $25 million in capital investment. We had $100 in fiscal year 26. That contemplated a start of the emergent data center, which is on city limits, city property. And so that contemplated that there would be some infrastructure and at least one of the several buildings at least started and under construction. We've backed that off, and we decided that what we do is that any digital technology data center facility line items will be separate. They're kind of special because of they're self-contained, and they're really almost in a completely different asset class than, say, a 50-person manufacturer. So we wanted to pull it out. So we think that a 25 mil in cap value creation, fiscal year 27 within city limits is very achievable. Workforce. This is something that our interactions with our manufacturers and industrial service companies has impressed upon us. We're seeing a lot more of a need for workforce development training and automation. And so we have really, through Andrew Killingsworth and Samuel Helm's efforts, they've really kind of been the tip of the spear on the initial outreach and discussions with our incumbent industry, what their needs are from a workforce perspective. And so what we've done is really amplified our relationships with Texas Workforce Commission, Work in Texas, and Texas Workforce Solutions on finding pathways forward to either find more employees or more properly trained employees, or working with the Texas Manufacturers Assistance Center on programs where they would come up and train workforce for different specific industrial tasks. And so we think that that is probably one of the most important tasks that the DC and Chamber EDD can do. That keeps coming up over and over again. And it is not just germane to San Angelo. Sometimes I think we tend to think that it's just because of our geographic location and population size. Our workforce is almost 64,000 out of a city of 100,000. So we have a very robust deployed workforce. But it continues to this workforce depletion situation continues to affect even very large communities. So we're working on different programs with Howard College, the Workforce Development Board, and with Work in Texas and Workforce Solutions to address those concerns by having meetings with them and the actual industrial operators simultaneously. So we're going to see those programs increase. And then finally, startup and innovation engagement. This is the reason we have a separate line item and a separate focus on this is the Development Corporation is somewhat limited as to what they can do with a brand new startup, especially when it comes to any contributions of any funding. And that sometimes inadvertently excludes companies that are startups where they have no track record, they have no history, they might not even have proper funding. That organization, that program of the Chamber, which the Development Corporation staff participates in. In fact, we have the meetings for the Innovation and Inventors Network at the Business Resource Center. So we have all the partners together. That's a way we can help commit to a program that is known nationally as economic gardening, where we take companies or individuals that have a good idea and they need to find a marketplace, they need to understand how they can capture funding, workforce facilities. But that's really pure startups. So you could almost call that startup curation. And that has proven to be quite a bit more successful than we thought. We get a lot of attention from that. Steve Elanius, our CEO, takes the lead and is the host for now of those meetings, which we host monthly at the Business Resource Center. So we've increased the frequency of those. I think that probably gets us to the end of the report. If there's anything else, the rest of the different line items stay the same. We're comfortable with that. Is there anything else? Any other questions?
I did have one question.
Yeah.
On the jobs created, you've got 64 year-to-date, so you're just a little over 2/3 of that KPI goal. Is 90 still the number that you're going to stick with moving forward? And I guess the question is, what is the reasoning behind not quite getting to the 90? Does that have anything to do with the lineup above, or we thought something was coming in that didn't quite?
There are a couple of transactions that haven't closed yet.
Okay.
One of them we had to pivot to another site.
Okay.
And we didn't count those.
Okay. Is 90 still the same?
I'd like to keep it. I think, you know, even if we come up with 80, I mean, I think it's good to have a stretch goal.
Absolutely.
I think it keeps us focused. It's aspirational, but I like it.
Okay.
I like it. I think we should keep it.
Okay. That's kind of one of our main goals as well, is creating jobs in the community side.
Yeah, it really is. And good jobs too. We really internally we call it career creation. And that's why it may be 64 at this point. Those are verifiable. I didn't put this on here. I didn't know if the companies would be comfortable with us stating that kind of detail. It's kind of their business, it really is. But if ever you wanted to talk about it or see it, we can show those jobs. And they're all full times.
Perfect.
Yep.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. Samuel, is this where we are in line with schedule? We're going to go on to projects, assessed value. We good to go? Okay. One of the studies that we have conducted with the DC team is to understand and take a look at assessed tax values. Yep. As you all know, you guys have been doing this with us as a team for a long time. It can be difficult to assess what is the economic yield to a community from a business retention or expansion or from a new recruit. There are software programs that are pretty good that you do a lot of inputs and it puts out a pro forma and it lets you understand what that economic yield is. And that's great. But we like to look at actuals. What are the actual tax yields from the different companies that we have helped create a presence or an expansion within the city limits? And so what this does is it shows the actual tax yields, because that's really, as far as the city's concerned and the development corporations capture of funding, that's really what matters.
Yep.
And so we're going to continue this study each year, and we can increase frequency if we wanted to do it every 6 months or every quarter and track what those are. And then in the following slide, we have another study that attaches that to the KPIs. Do you want to study this anymore and talk about this slide in any further discussion on what those variances are? Travis, do you have any comments on that?
No, I think this is really helpful.
I agree. This is really good. However, I would think plugging this data into some of the cool software that you were talking about that would take, while property tax valuation equals 10 million on recruitment, that's annual. I think that software will look at, that also increased sales tax.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's not in here is sales tax.
Which increased, water fund revenue, that also, there's an economic impact quotient that you can feed this in and it will get you a 10-year ROI that's, while we can, this makes sense and we all go, man, 10 million a year, we're getting an extra property tax revenue, yay. But the 10-year ROI is huge compared to that. And I think we need to.
There's huge numbers.
Not discount the chamber number sometimes, that is the plus, but it's real.
It is. Well, along that thought, so that's term we've heard future casting. What I like about this study is that it shows that the projects that I and Samuel and Bob and Andrew work on, and we all work on collectively, we land it, and that's considered, check the box. That was a secured transaction in fiscal year 26. The community isn't really feeling the good full yield effects until maybe year 2 or 3. And you'll see that with these tax increases. And that is because, like, for example, Lone Star Truck Group, they may have a relatively small presence in San Angelo, but that is a gigantic company. And we're proud to have a company of that kind of size and national market reach here in San Angelo. But you can see how one move from their little Chadburn Street location over into the industrial park, which Bob worked on for over a year, just the sheer increase in tax value. Amazon had put that on there. It's not a huge increase, but that shows what it's like, what happens to the tax value when they land, and we've got the real estate on the ground, but then the automation starts coming in. Yep. Rosenberger, same way. That increase is because of, we landed Rosenberger, which is a very large German manufacturer of electronics, and then they won a project, a manufacturing program that they ran in another part of North America, moved to San Angelo. And that was always kind of the plan, but we didn't really know if it was going to happen until, they pulled the trigger on it. So I think it's really, really constructive to show how these grow over time. And they flourish as we flourish. And we help them do that. Now, if we see a decrease, we're going to obviously be aware that maybe there's an issue. Or maybe they've relocated some function to someplace else. So it's really good. We think it's a good tool to use. And you have access to all this, and we can certainly provide you with more detailed analyses. And then finally, these are the city limits projects that we have worked on. These are from a 3-year look back. And this kind of runs in line with the slide that we just saw. And you can see the projects. This goes back 36 months, so 24, 25, 26. And what those tax yields were when they first landed, and then what they've increased over the last 24 months, so 25 and 26. And we like this because it really illustrates landing a project is very different than curating over time, which is where the BRE program really shines. You can look at a company like Equipment Share, and our assistance and helping them find positioning within the marketplace and the regional marketplace, and with workforce encouragement and help develop their workforce. Santa Juanita, that's another one. That's healthcare. That's a 52,000 square foot, 110 bed, state-of-the-art skilled nursing facility. It's not a retirement community. It's a skilled nursing facility. Get them in, get them healthy, and get them out. And how when they took delivery of all their FF&E and all of their equipment, what it did. And so we think this is a handy study. If there's any questions on that, I can certainly go into a little bit more detail.
Michael, on the SMC Global, you look at 2024 versus 2026, there was a drop there. How did they get their property taxes down?
I don't know. I don't know if they protested it. I don't know what they did.
I need to call them and get some advice.
Maybe we typed it in wrong. I don't think we did.
A lot of their tax assessment is inventory, materials that they have stored, so that goes up and down. The other thing I was going to point out, since I got the mic open here, on those recoupment projects, I think it's important to point out, or remind the board anyway, they all started at zero. They weren't here. So that, regardless how you look at that, that's all benefit coming in.
Well, I was going to ask about that. When does Allen's and Rosenberger and those guys, when did they go into the BRE category rather than recruitment? Or did they stay in recruitment from now to the end of time?
They'll stay in recruitment until we do a BREP project with them or something. Once they've been here 5 years, like pick a number, It just depends on what you want to do with it.
That was to highlight their origin. Mm-hmm. But for right now, I can tell you Amazon, Equipment Share, Rosenberger, Allen's, those are BRE relationships. That's a good question. But we just wanted to show the origin. And I think that's worth it to show you all and the public that it's kind of a 50-50 break each economic development fiscal year as to where the sources of our growth come from. It's probably about half recruitment, half BRE. I think that BRE is probably going to increase just based on the conversations that we've been having with a number of our existing industrial operators here. and knowing their growth plans. And really, I want to tell you, thank you again for your support on the BRE efforts, and we're really glad to have Samuel on board. He and Andrew have a real knack for multiple visits and understanding what the needs now and the needs in the future are of the companies that we have here. And it takes 2 to 3 to maybe 4 visits with these companies off-site, just so that they can start thinking about what their needs are, because your needs are going to be somewhat dependent on what kind of resources are available, other than sticking an ad in the newspaper for need help wanted. But also those relationships that we all curate with these companies helps invite more deep conversations about issues that they may be facing and what solutions we can provide. So I've found that to be very constructive, a real force multiplier for our effort. I don't think the team's been any better, ever.
So the chart that we're looking at is property tax revenue only.
Yes.
Do you have a means for estimating the sales tax contribution
We can.
of these businesses?
We can. Yeah, we wanted this to be in line with capital investment, because we've talked a lot about capital investment in our materials this morning.
Sure.
Showed cap investment, so we wanted that to be in line with it, but we can certainly do that.
I just think it's, I think in some of these circumstances, especially with the manufacturing side, the sales tax numbers could be meaningful.
Very. Yep.
So, thank you.
All right. Yeah, you want to talk about growth in San Angelo?
Absolutely.
All right. Pardon me, were there any other questions? Very good, thank you.
Are we still on the same item? Okay, so just to clarify, we are going to go to item G and allow you to kind of give your entire spiel before we get, allow you that. So we're going to move from item E directly to item G and then come back to F. So I'll go ahead and read item G, presentation and discussion regarding economic growth in San Angelo, presentation by Steve Elanius.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to echo some of the comments that Mike had made. There are some real neat opportunities happening. And part of that is the collaboration that you see through the Development Corp, the Chamber, and all these other entities that are working to try to grow the economy and help businesses be successful. So I want to commend you guys as far as an organization, as a board. I think there's no more important board than the Development Corporation. If you look at cities that have experienced growth, what's driving it is the Development Corporation Board. They're investing in key strategies and industries and business retention programs. And so I think what you're doing is important. So over the last couple of months, as we've had conversations around data centers and growth and economic development, there's just been this question is, why do we do economic development? I think you as a board get it and understand what's driving that. Obviously, property tax, sales tax, franchise tax, and then other things that a community can bring to the table to grow that economy and give a tax base for the community. So when I started looking at San Angelo, there's a couple of key things I wanted to look at. Is number one, what is the growth rate for San Angelo? Now, some years it's 1%, 1.3%. A good year is 2.3% growth. And it varies year to year depending on what's going on with the economy. From the Bureau of U.S. Labor and Statistics, 2023, they estimated San Angelo's gross domestic product is $9.6 billion. So that's the baseline. That's not a number that I pulled out of the air. It's coming from the U.S. Department of Labor and Statistics. And so if we do a baseline of $9.6 billion, if you do a 1% growth rate for the next 10 years, it captures about $1 billion new dollars being invested in the community. If you look at a 2.3% growth rate, you're looking at about $2.5 billion being invested in the community. And then finally, if we match what Texas is doing, which Texas is averaging about a 5% growth rate, then we would have about an additional $6 billion invested in San Angelo. And that means jobs, that means payroll, that means opportunities, it means homes, it means retail sales goes up. And so our role, not only the chamber, but the Development Corp's role, is how do we drive that growth? How do we increase the opportunities for San Angelo? We're growing, but I want to make sure that we have conversations about how can we grow more and what can we do strategically to grow the economy and make this community even more successful in what's happening. And so I wanted to point that out to you. I think it's just a good snapshot to kind of give you an idea of what we could do and what the potential is over the next 5 to 10 years. I do want to point out one of the challenges or opportunities we have. San Angelo's 65 and older population is 17% of the total population. On the 18 to 30-year-old population, if you factor out Goodfellow and you factor out ASU, it's only 10% of the population. So we have a high-end folks that are leaving the workforce, going into retirement. That's a different mindset in terms of how they spend and how they invest versus the 18 to 30-year-olds, which it's the beginning of their careers, starting families and relocating. And so our challenge is how do we grow that from that 10% population of the total population to get that up where it's matching. That you want to have some equilibrium between who's exiting the workforce, that 17% that's exiting the workforce, and those folks that are entering the workforce. And so I want to just lay that out to you as a conversation. I think there's some things that we can do with ASU. I've had conversations with Ronnie Hawkins about how we can start tracking those students that graduate from ASU and stay here in the community and those who move to other places. But it's important as we talk about workforce and as we talk about opportunities, how we're impacting that 18 to 30-year-old age category, because that's where you're going to see your biggest growth. That's where it'll impact the schools. And we want to make sure we're creating opportunities in this community for people to have careers, good paying jobs, then that kind of pushes that age category to where we want to see it. So appreciate your time. Great opportunities.
You were touching on the 10% of 18 to 30, 17% that are
65 and older.
65 and older. How do those percentages compare to peer cities like Abilene?
Great question, Travis. I can get those numbers. I didn't bring those today, but I can get those numbers. It'd be good to see that. West Texas has its challenges.
Yeah.
Because of its, I don't want to say isolation, but its location compared to a metro area.
Yes.
The dynamics are different. But every West Texas community is facing some of those very same challenges. And it's just how we position ourselves to make sure that this is a place that people want to live, move to, and have start their careers.
San Angelo has historically been a retirement center.
Yeah.
I mean, we've celebrated that. What is the growth pattern in that retirement age over the last 10 years?
It continues to grow dramatically, and it's going to, as that baby boom generation retires, it's an advantage. I'm not discounting the impact that it has on San Angelo. It's just a different dynamic. And so you want to recognize you've got that group at this end of the spectrum, and then you've got the 18 to 30-year-olds at this end. And we just want to make sure that we're growing that 18 to 30-year-old spectrum to be that there are opportunities here.
So you have seen the retirement sector getting larger
Yes.
and growing percentage-wise?
Yes. Percentage-wise. It's going to grow as that baby boom demographics continues to retire, leave the workforce. And San Angelo has a great quality of life. It's relatively affordable, has a lot of amenities that people enjoy, and so it's a huge advantage. But we can't just focus on the tail end. We got to focus on the beginning end of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. That's great information. All right, so we will go back then to item F. Consider authorizing the board president to negotiate and execute a professional services agreement for marketing and recruitment services between COSA DC and the San Angelo Chamber of Commerce not to exceed $476,000 and recommending approval by City Council. Presentation by Bob Schneeman.
I don't really have a presentation. I think you've heard everything that you need here presentation-wise, but I was just going to let you know that, of course, the current contract expires the end of September. So ideally, we would have a decision today, or a decision could be delayed until the September meeting. Beyond that, we would have to, and it's still not impossible, but we would do something after the start of the new fiscal year, and we just have to backdate the contract. So that's kind of where we are in the process. So it's up to the board of how y'all feel on this.
So I did have a couple of questions maybe and considerations for the contract itself. And then I may speak for some, may not, and just kind of open it up, but wanted to jump out and kind of get the ball rolling. We received some great information today. Outstanding. The assessed tax value, the job creations, those are the bullet points that we want to see. That's kind of a rate of return for us. Those are factual numbers that are quantified, that we can truly see that we're getting our return. There's a lot of talk, there's a lot of things, but when you put it into numbers and you put it into facts, it's hard to argue that. And so thank you so much for doing that. What I'd like to do, if it's possible, is put that as a KPI or put that into, and I'm not sure how that works, but would love to enter in the assessed tax value, the job creation, and the estimated sales tax number. Somehow put that where that is a requirement to provide to us and put that in the contract. Is that possible to do?
You can pretty much put anything you want into a contract.
Okay. Within reason, right?
Within reason, sure. But if that's something you want to do, and you can also put into a contract what weight you want that to have. Is it more a suggestion, or is it I guess if it wasn't done, would it be a breach of contract? Do you want it to be that, strict, I guess is the word. And that's something we can negotiate and discuss as we're putting the agreement together.
And maybe that's a question for our chamber folks. It's not meant to be punitive. It's just a matter of, we just want it in there to make sure that we're receiving that type of information. And I know if we sent an email and asked for it, it would be presented to us. But just to make sure we're covering ourselves and the citizens that, provide the sales tax funds, that we're just being good stewards of that money, and we're showing transparency and showing everything out there. So that was my only, and also the budget numbers that are provided annually, like to somehow insert that into the contract to where that is approved. Are there anyone else have anything on that? Am I out of line in asking for that in y'all's opinion? I'm one of seven up here, so.
I think it makes sense. We have an understanding of what the expectations are, what the goals are. We have a budget that we're working off of. I think it makes sense to incorporate it into the agreement. I think to Holly's point, I don't want to necessarily create a breach of contract scenario if they fail to meet a KPI. But to have an understanding, it just kind of memorializes what we've all discussed and agreed to here in these meetings.
I think mine was one of the loudest voices last year when they were asking for this amount and we gave them this amount. And one of the things that I said last year that I'm still concerned about going forward is it had been a number of years since we had increased our investment into the Chamber's economic development efforts. I don't want us to get behind that 8 ball again. So, the fact that we're staying where we are, I don't have a real problem with right now because I think the numbers make sense. But I want us to make sure that we're continuing to fund at a level that we need to fund and not get comfortable with 476 as the number. Right. So just an observation.
And I would agree with that as well. Again, it needs to be justified. folks need, and you guys do a great job. Come to us, explain to us why you need the extra funding, where it's gonna go. It's just all transparency. We have to be good stewards of the sales tax dollars. At the end of the day, we're cutting the checks, so as long as it's justified and public can see what we're doing and are comfortable with what we're doing, then I agree with you. I mean, if it needs to go up, it needs to go up.
Well, and I think I said last year that if there are items that come up in the middle of a contract year, you can always bring those to us and see if there's extra funding that is available.
Sure.
And we'll certainly consider that.
Sure. Any other thoughts, comments, things that we'd like to see?
Oh, I was just going to reiterate what some of you said, and these numbers that we saw today, I mean, that's exactly what I mean, that just brings it all into focus for me, the sales tax and, or the property tax appraisal information, and so I do appreciate all the work, and I think I think everything's lining up here for a great relationship going forward, so thank y'all.
Mr. President, I'll try to move this forward. I'd like to make a motion that we authorize you to negotiate and execute a professional services agreement with the KPI items that were mentioned for $476,000 and to recommend approval by City Council.
Second.
So we have, how exactly, Holly, we do have a first, we have a second. How exactly do we make sure those are in there, or what is the process for that, I guess I should ask?
I'd say essentially direction to staff to make sure it's in there. I don't, your motion is good, directing us to.
Okay.
Right. Right.
Do we want to maybe bring those back next time in the form of whatever requirements we're doing at next meeting?
Let's just get it done. I'm tired of talking about this thing. I mean, let's just give direction to Steve and Bob and just get this thing done.
We want to be able to get it to the council. If we kick it down the road to September, now it's going to be at the end of September, the new year starts October 1. I'm like with the.
I don't want to talk about this next month. Okay. And I'm 1 of 7, but I do not want to talk about this anymore.
Keep us informed, but I think we're authorizing Steve to do the negotiating and.
There's 7 of us up here, so I just want to make sure everybody's on the same page.
I want it done.
So we've got a motion, we've got a second. Go ahead and take the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate that. All right, we'll move to item H now, back in order. Update presentation regarding the Railport and Industrial Park projects. Presentation by Bob Schneeman.
Okay, first of all, in the industrial park, just as the board may be aware, we've been working with Park Hill Engineering to do a design for the infrastructure improvements on phase 2.3, which is the remainder basically of phase 2 of the park. They have proposed to submit a preliminary set of plans, 35%, I believe, or 65%, I believe, on or before August 20th. We're going to, at that same time, get together on a phone call and go over item by item any hiccups that they found or any problem items. We'll then do a review of their plans, and they plan to have, provided we can get them a timely review, they'd have final plans to us sometime in September, probably towards the end of September. This is essentially the layout that they're using. Going as far as the land sales out there, A&M Forest Service is closed. DLH Real Estate, they're still working through some issues with prospective buyers, I believe. And then ATI has 35.89 acres under contract. They've run into a real challenge with Atmos Energy as far as getting natural gas to one of their prospective users. We're going to be talking about them a little bit more in a minute, but that's essentially where we are in the industrial park. We see this finishing up. And we're also providing in this design those elements of expansion that would allow for, we won't build the streets now, but we will provide the dedications of right-of-way and what have you to get these streets to connect over into the northeast plan layout when that's finalized. So that's where we are on the industrial park. Again, they said a 60% submittal by August 19th, a 60% page, as they call it, page turn with staff on the 20th, and then final by the 5th of September. On the railport, as I'm sure the board's aware, there's a 186-acre existing railport now, and we're negotiating and still going through contract revisions on an additional 250 acres that will be purchased by COSA DC and simultaneously sold to the rail park operator. Biggest issues we have out there right now are water and sewer, and we've looked at a number of different options for providing water and sewer out there. I had a meeting, Teams meeting about a week and a half ago now with the Economic Development Administration rep from for this area. He's in Austin, and also our Concho Valley Council of Governments person that works with grants and what have you. EDA, this is as they say, it's a grant that would be right up their alley, but they typically can only do about 2.5 to 3 million of their money, and it's either a 50-50 or possibly, depending on the income status of the city over a period of time, it might go to 60-40, where they would pay 60% of a project and we would pay 40. So we could be looking at a project in the neighborhood of, let's say, 5 million. It might get to 6, but probably 5, that they might be able to participate in. So our first option we were looking at was, of course, what you see on the board there. I'm just going to say a lot of water, a lot of sewer. We did make one change, and that is that we're going to do, we were originally proposing a sewage lift station in this area. We're now proposing it here. I also met with the city engineer, and through some discussion with him, that turned out to be a better location for that sewage lift station. So, I'm sorry, let me go back for just a minute. So that would be option one. Option two would be that we would provide water and sewer only to 50th Street. We get it this far, bring it back down, tie it in, about the same on the sewer. That would lower the cost a little bit, make water available, but it would be on the railport or railport operator or anybody developing out there to complete or extend it beyond that point. So option one, which is the full-blown deal, is sort of 12.1 million, 4.8 in water and 7.3 sewer. I'm sorry, that's the 50th Street option. Through the park is 5.7 for water and about the same price for sewer, for a total of 13 million. So we're getting up there. You can see what where this is all going. And the rest of my slides seem to be missing. There's an option three, which would be a shorter run to get to 50th Street, only run it in 50th Street, and back down just water. That would be in that between $4 and $5 million range. And I'm going to talk to EDA and see if they would entertain something like that. That gets us, that's one step, but that gets us started. Whether Costa DC is interested in participating in that to some extent, whether the city is, whether Railport or some developer, at this point, it's all up in the air. But I'm trying to get something going, and I want to try to get, more importantly, try to get a set of plans that everybody can live with on the books, because until we have a set of plans, nobody's going to talk to us about anything.
so.
So I have a few questions.
Sure.
Can you go back to the overview? So the existing rail port does not have water and sewer.
Correct.
Okay. And there's no infrastructure beyond the lines that they've built out? There's no
Correct.
buildings or improvements beyond?
And three-phase electrical that runs up along the east property line.
Three-phase, okay. You talked about grant opportunities, potentially. So what of the water sewer cost do you think might be grant eligible?
It would all be grant eligible. However, and I'm just talking Economic Development Administration, they are the one most likely to do this.
Okay.
And they'll have a new budget come the 1st of October. We can see where it's probably going to be, that 2.5, $3 million has been the same for years now, since we started phase 2 of the industrial park.
What's the 2.5 to 3 million? Is that?
That would be their portion.
That would be the
on
contribution?
a single project.
Okay.
So what I'm proposing to them, and I got to discuss it with them, is if we phase this and we said, okay, the cheapest option for water, by the way, is to tie in down here, come up 50th Street, across, and back down. That's the cheapest option. It means we'd have to get an easement from Lone Star Beef and also from I forget who the owner is down here, but they're it's underground utilities. Somebody help me.
AEP? No? AEP?
No, not AP. Private contractor.
Okay.
It's not Darnell, but it's.
Yeah.
Anyway, they own that, and we would just clip a very small portion of their property right at the end of this triangle. They own this triangular piece right here. So we'd have to do that. But it is possible. So that would be perhaps the first phase. And if we did that, then it might be worth the operator's while to then extend another loop up into the park at his cost.
Yes.
He can get it cheaper than we can, because we're going to do it under a city-type contract. He's going to do it under a private development-type contract. And if we could work it, we could have the whole contract be his, and we'd reimburse him for some portion of it. But if it's an EDA grant, it has to be a city project. So that's where one of the catches comes in. They won't even do a grant to us. They want it to the city.
Okay.
Bob, am I correct if I said north of 2105 is the reliever route for the interstate?
Correct.
That would be running along just north of 2105.
Yeah,
2105, and then there's
it's actually up here somewhere a little farther up.
And at some point in time, that is a future growth area for San Angelo, and having water and sewer up on that interstate frontage, albeit maybe 10 years from now, is not a bad investment that would be beneficial to, commercial development, industrial or residential or whatever, and to me, it would make sense for us to certainly look at this, leveraging economic development funds, maybe developer funds, maybe Costa DC funds, or maybe city funds, and we, utility funds, that we figure out how to build enough together, cobble enough money together to make this investment, because there is a future return on that investment. On the water side, does this not qualify as a water project?
I'd have to look at it, but I don't think it is. I think the water, the ballot side of things is more water conservation focused. I don't know that it would include
Water supply,
Water supply and water
distribution,
conservation.
long-term supply and distribution, because part of building the water line was distribution.
Yeah.
And so this is part of our distribution.
Yeah, the distribution word isn't in there. However, water supply, by my definition, we're supplying water to a new area.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and if
and now here comes the accountant.
Yeah, and I just want to echo what Bob said. There's no distribution in the ballot language.
But supply, isn't it?
It's supply, and I believe it's related to new water supply. So it's water rights, those kinds of, being able to take advantage of those new water supplies. This would be expanding the current distribution network, which in the past, we haven't really allowed that in the past.
I gotta ask.
Definitely.
Yeah, I would say on that subject, I'd like to take a deeper dive into that. Like, I think we should push, we've got a lot of money here for this kind of project, and we need to find the best ways to deploy it. I think we need to know how far we can push the envelope. I've heard Matt say before, ask for forgiveness rather than permission. Like, to me, that falls right under water supply in an area that's about to explode the north side of town. So anyway, I would like to see, like, this question of is it not? Let's answer the question as best we can, because we're going to get faced with more of these kind of projects and decisions. This touches right at that clover leaf. That's the Northeast Corridor project, right? So this is all going to grow together, all of this stuff.
And you've got the Lake Ivy transmission line runs through there, and it may make sense to build a substation there on the Lake Ivy transmission line. That improves your supply to North San Angelo. Maybe there needs to be an elevated tower there. I mean, I think we need to, that is a 10-year development growth area for the community, and not just the rail port, but I mean, just in general.
And beyond, yeah.
Because, when that interstate is in, albeit it may be 10 years from now,
The city has looked at the possibility of doing an elevated water storage tank somewhere on the 250 acres. They originally discussed something in this area here. The high point on the property is actually this upper corner, northwest corner. That would make the most sense to get it as high as possible. However, that would be to improve the water supply and pressures and everything for Northeast development. I don't know what their latest is on that with all the new Northeast sector plan going in. I don't know if they're looking maybe at doing something farther in that direction. If they would do something here, that would maybe help us get us at least a portion of the water main, because water tank without pipe is not going to do anybody any good. I mean, we're going to keep pursuing this, and I'm going to try to get somebody to commit to something, particularly the EDA for starters, and then we'll let's see where we get. I'm also going to meet with not next week, but a week after next, the railport operator. He's got two big companies now. I don't want to mention names in public, but they're looking at, one's a Berkshire Hathaway company. He's going back and forth with their lawyers right now. They want 10 acres there, rail served. And then there's another company that's looking at probably the similar size. So he's got people interested in developing out there. We just got to get the basic stuff to them, water and sewer, or at least give them a pathway to get it.
What's the latest on the bridge in Presidio?
The what? Sorry?
The bridge in Presidio. Has it opened?
I was going to mention that.
Where are we on that?
They are doing training right now. The contractor that installed all the customs inspection stuff, they're doing training right now.
So?
No, I'm sorry, they're doing testing right now. The next phase is going to be training. They anticipate first trains around the 1st of January.
Yeah, less than a year.
That's right.
Okay.
So we're going to start seeing.
That's exactly what that's what I've always felt, is that kickstarts this development.
Yeah.
So, okay.
So we're going to start seeing trains go through, and all they're going to be to us at this point is an inconvenience, as opposed to being able to get revenue into the city from those trains. It makes perfect sense to do transloading at this yard. And that's what we're set up to do, get it from the train into trucks. That was all I had unless there were any questions.
Thanks, Bob.
Everybody good? Appreciate it, Bob. All right, the next item is closed session. Executive session under the provision of Government Code Title V, Open Government Ethics, Subtitle A, Open Government Chapter 551, Open Meetings, Subchapter D, exceptions to requirement that meetings be open under the following sections. Section A, Section 551.072, deliberation about real property regarding ATI Group request to extend purchase agreement for 35.869 plus or minus acres consisting of Lot 1A and Lot 1B out of the replat of Lot 1, Block 5, Section 2, San Angelo Gateway Edition, City of San Angelo, Tom Green County, according to the plat or map recorded in instrument number 202312960, plat records of Tom Green County. We will enter into closed session at 10:56. Yeah.
Okay, looks like we're live.
Okay, coming out of closed session, 11:32 a.m., back into regular session. Going into item 7, follow-up and administrative issues, announcement and consideration of future agenda items. Do we have any? None. Seeing none, we'll move to item 8, adjournment. We'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Got a first, got a second? Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned. 11:32 a.m.